Hi everybody, it's Bella Jane Michaels. Thank you so much for joining me again today. My last video, we actually talked about conscious sex, and that was a really big, beautiful thing I had been wanting to do for some time, so I was really glad to share that with you. If you haven't seen it, I'll definitely leave that link down here for you so that you can watch that. I'll do a little recap on that, but basically I just want to move into this next phase, which is kind of a darker situation. Okay, so in the first conscious sex thing, we really looked at a little bit into the history of the sacredness of sex, the awareness of sex. We talked a little bit about Tantra and Kama Sutra, and we talked about multi-orgasms and how men can use this orgasm, this energy, instead of depleting their life force, to actually using it into awakening their consciousness with their partner. Quite fantastic. And so if you haven't checked that out, definitely do it. Now, having said that, this particular video has got a darker bite to it too. Okay, so I want to just go ahead and say that I love all of you performers out there. I love you artists. I love everybody who is doing all that they need to do to survive and try to make it in this world. However, there are some direct, definite messages that we are sending out to women and to men. And I don't mean us, we, because there's definitely a system that is perpetuating these cycles of just insanity, okay? And I mean unconsciousness when I say insanity, which is just that people still believe that there's one person here, there's another person over there, and I'm me and you're you, and we're fighting each other, and there's got to be some survival and challenge, and they're completely deluded as to the empathy and what's going on in the soul and all of the pain that they're having because they've suppressed it. Because that's what the system teaches you to do, to absolutely not look at your own issues, to not question authority, certainly don't question God, and to just do what you're told. Now that brings us definitely into this one, so I think that's a really good way to open up this particular topic, which is we're going to talk about how distortion has changed sex, and it's moving us down energetically so that we end up obliterating ourselves by one of the most beautiful ways to elevate ourselves. It is literally using this harmonious, incredible, powerful thing that we have that was born inside us, this sexual energy, by which we can use this to transmutate and elevate our own consciousness, and using us to kill us instead. Okay, so I really, when I see this and I understand that all of this is psychological, that has taken years and years and years to continue to perpetuate suppression of women, and to keep the man in the frame of the main focus, to continue to honor the man only in religious churches, and to keep the woman as seen and not heard, and never touched by a penis, for heaven's sake. She has to be a holy virgin. So these things just don't add up to allow the goddess to come to life, to be, and to do what she needs to do in our world. And so she's been called upon again to really give life to this, because no spirit can come, no god or goddess can come unless they're called, no angel can come unless they are called by you. Okay, that's just one of those rules, and everybody has laws and rules everywhere, that they cannot interfere unless you ask them. So we're definitely coming to the age where we are birthing up this feminine power, and we're doing it, I think, at a really good time, because you can't be any later than this. Okay, so what I have seen in the course of my life, when I was 19, I was an exotic dancer, and I was really thrown into that because I was in a desperate situation. But I'm truly grateful, because I absolutely love performing, and even though I saw some crazy shit go down in those clubs and that lifestyle, I'm super, super glad that I just learned what I learned and got in there to perform, and really got some insight into how to utilize and charge up this sexual energy, and how to communicate this with an audience. That's something that I couldn't have just learned in a studio and dance class. I really had to get out there and do it on my own. So in these places, however, there's so much scrutiny and criticism. And one of the things that I noticed early on is that men looked at me and every woman as literally just flesh. We were just pieces of TNA, and the money would follow whichever one was the most pretty. And the pretty was defined by whatever was in the latest magazines for hairstyles, for, you know, whatever breast size was the big thing to do. So, you know, we learned early on, especially I learned very early on, that we as organic girls, if you hadn't had any enhancements, you got the day shift, and if you'd had enhancements, you had the night shift. So your ability to make more money and have a better prospected business was lessened just by the way that you looked. So a lot of shame starts in there, where you just don't feel like you're good enough. And so for years, people would say, oh gosh, you know, oh, you're a stripper, you must be a homewrecker and everything else. And I'd be like, I freaking hate men. What are you talking about? And they're like, how could you hate men? You take your clothes off for them. And I'm like, you have no idea what I hear every single day and how we're treated. And that's really the interesting thing that most people don't know, is they think that they walk into a place and strippers just, boy, I can't wait till, you know, it's all a show, guys. They're the best actors in the world. That's what you do. That's how you hustle it. Okay? But I want to talk about this because it's come to my attention that what has been going on in the undercurrent is this perpetuation of men becoming more violent and aggressive, and that kind of being an okay trend. Like when I literally sat down to watch Game of Thrones, I might have been the only person who wanted to vomit after I saw how the women were treated, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, right. You know, I'm so glad I wasn't born back then, but that's pretty dead on, and it's disgusting. And though I can still walk outside and not be, you know, lashed out and be publicly beaten, thank God. You know, there are some places that still that kind of stuff happens. You know, I'm seriously like, oh, wow, look at how we treat the very vessels that bring life into this world. I mean, it was horrific. And that film apparently was rated really high on the likes and trend list. So, you know, I have noticed that the more conscious I become, the less I really enjoy violence. I mean, I grew up in an extremely violent home anyway. So, I mean, I know it firsthand. But, you know, you just don't gravitate toward it anymore. It just loses its taste altogether. So what we have here, though, is a problem, because for millennia, for centuries, you name it, women have been shown how to be instead of who to naturally be from the inside out. And unfortunately, because we have the nature to please, and so do men, we follow whatever we're given that's apparently supposed to work itself out into some kind of major, wonderful matchmaking situation. And we just make a mess, okay? Because men who are violent and reactive have suppressed their empathy and their ability to love and hear. And women who are so concerned about challenges and about trying to make sure her man don't run off with some other woman is always living in fear of never being enough. And you can't match these two together for that to turn out to be something that'll work harmoniously. So I am one of those women who, you know, I'm fully spiritual. I'm also a kinky bitch, okay? So having said that, I want you to know that conscious sex is most definitely not like boring or so, you know, churchy, you know what I'm saying? Or throw a sheet over you and try to find where you are in there, and there's none of that crazy crap, okay? Here's the deal though. We honor and respect each other, our boundaries, we trust each other, and we also are in the healing process of moving. Everything that we do is about making us better, making us feel more alive, bringing all of our senses into the present moment so that we can have incredible pleasure. And we do many different things that can be tried, again, because we don't have a whole lot of hang-ups. Now, what happens on the other side of this is that when a girl or a woman doesn't feel like she's enough, she will do almost anything to please her partner. She'll even hurt herself. She'll even ask for that pain. And this is what I've noticed of recent, and it really petrifies the hell out of me. And one of the biggest reasons it does is because, and I'm not going to call any names because I just want to be careful here, but there are some definite artists out there that make some pretty cool, sexy, raunchy, naughty ass music, but somewhere in the middle of there, it talks about gagging, choking, harming, breaking parts of your body, and that they are enjoying it, okay? And that's this kind of stuff that our kids are hearing and our young adolescents are hearing, and we are charged to think this way. When I was in the camming business, I got the hell out of that pretty quick. I got in, what I had noticed more than anything is that first it was like this display of like, oh my God, this all of it was just pretty much the most intimate parts of you that could be looked at, could be seen from anywhere with a few coins, or it was just a menagerie of just the most intimate parts of the women, and they were all having to compete against each other, and the men too, they were having to compete against all of this other stuff. It was just crazy. And the men weren't asking for the women to embrace their body and rub and be sensuous and really get into themselves and feel oh no. They all had specific requests, and most of those requests were harming yourself in some manner. And in the beginning, when you're learning about how to do your camming, you're told kind of rather discreetly that the more that you can do with yourself, the more clients you can have. And that also meant that girls were picking up things like anal ease and making sure that parts of them were numbed out so that they could literally just do this stuff to their body for hours on end. Okay, so that's what we've resorted ourselves to doing to just get a few bucks, okay? That's fucking desperation, excuse my French, but it absolutely is. Because I was desperate when I did it, and I thought, oh, I can express myself, I can be artistic. I had this whole idea how I was going to do it. They were not interested. So this was just the same stripper crap now put into a different dynamic where men just were like, I'm paying for it, and I don't really care about what you think. And you might be asking, well, why should they? Because we're all one. That's why we should. And as cliche as that sounds, is absolutely true. So as I've been looking and finding more and more violence being accepted by men, more rage being accepted, more repression, reaction, this narcissistic, really wild things just blown up everywhere. It seems that you can find a narcissist like every 2 houses now. You can find domestic violence is shot up, like ungodly, okay? And apparently, we've got more churches resurrected, more holy people. We seem to really have it together, and we really don't have it together. Nobody needs to hurt anybody to get off, to feel good, to be proven that you're enough. Nobody needs to hurt somebody else to feel pleasure. And I know we have been trained for so long to take spankings, and choking, beatings, and whatever else crazy crap we've been thrown at us. The truth of the matter is, nobody says that kind of shit if they've really gone through it. I don't know any woman who truly loved to have a lingam jammed inside of the back of her throat so that her reaction was to reject it, to only have it forced back into her. This is not something that she's loved. She's trained to like this pain and pretend that she likes this pain. Because the man, I don't know, he's been trained to harm her because he thinks this is what, valiant? I'm not sure. I think the best love and the best sex in the world is where you are working in conjunction with each other. I have nothing against deep throating. I don't. I happen to know that it should always be done with 2 very sensitive, compassionate partners who are going to pay attention to each other. and allow the process to happen to be very pleasurable for both people. Okay? So I know I'm getting into some like really intimate things here, but the truth is, when we start putting lyrics into our songs that say, hey, I'm all about my body and I'll do whatever it takes to keep you, including telling you that you can knock me around or stick your things in places and hurt me all day long, we're telling our daughters and our granddaughters that this is how they should behave. And I don't know a dad on the planet who would say, yeah, that's what I want for my daughter. And I don't know a mother on this world who would say, yeah, I want my son to behave that way. You know, because we don't. So this is a brand new time where we can really start breaking out of these really disgusting shells. This stuff is perpetuating, and if you haven't noticed, you know, it's gone past the point where it's smut films and all of that. We've gotten to now where we can just engage and pretty much push the woman down further to take as much abuse from the man as she can. And in the meantime, the man's not even knowing that everything he's putting out is what he gets back. So he's miserable. Nobody's winning here. Nobody wins at all. I had this conversation just today with a guy, and he was like, oh, you know, well, I think it would be fine, you know, and because the guys are going to think it's great. And I said, no, that's for a short time, see, until they realize that everything they put back has just been absolutely not touched their heart. It's not pleased them. It's not made them whole. So, like, you know, what do we do? What do we do from here? And the biggest thing that we can do is we can recognize that there is an alternative to this whole thing we call sex and how we are intimate with it, with each other. And what we can do now, well, we're just barely scratching the surface, because in Tantra, we're just now really getting the feel for what it's like to have multi orgasms, which are energetically involved now, which are like charged with these massive, just, it's like riding, and it's done together. Instead of one coming at you, it's like you're flowing together, and it's this beautiful dance. And so I think that, you know, the more educated we are and the more we practice together, the more heart-centered we stay, because empathy is the major charge by which we need here to change this world around. We do. And so when we stay here in our heart, and we realize that there is so much pleasure to be had by getting in here to the space we're all scared of sharing, because we don't half the time even know who we are. Most people on this planet are like, I'm just this person. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. I don't have any purpose, and they don't have a clue. And so they're, you know, wandering, meandering through until they usually drop on their bottoms and hopefully wake up at some point. And, you know, when we can do that, that's when the real gifts continue to pour in for us. So what I really, you know, I just want to get at is that there's a space in here for us to recognize that going down that rabbit hole of more abuse and more perpetuation of this is exactly what the system wants from you. And that dark system that's been reigning for a long, long time has finally got a big fat puncture hole from a big ball of light. And that light is shining out, and it's radiating as fast as it can to help show people that there is a much better way to engage in lovemaking and sex than to harm and hurt each other. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me, and we will continue to open up and evolve in this process in our evolution of our own sexuality consciously. And so I will bid you farewell for the time being. Love and light.